Yeah, this is a real story of making your own luck. So I'd always wanted to go on and do the Strike Eagle exchange, and these programs exist. The RAF has exchange programs with numerous air forces and other branches around the world. So there was an F-111 exchange in Australia. There were exchanges in the States. I particularly wanted the Strike Eagle one. And how it works is that a Brit goes out to the States on exchange, and an American comes to the UK as the other end of the exchange. So I was aware that it was sort of coming up to the time when the exchange tour would be boarded. And so this was when I was a QY now. I was on 15 Squadron instructing at Lossy, and we'd gone down to the annual Weapons Instructors Conference that the Air Warfare Centre ran at Waddington. And I ran into an F3 pilot there who had just been told he was going on the Strike Eagle exchange. I thought, oh, this is weird, because they're normally boarded at about the same time, the nav and the pilot one. They normally switch them over at the same time. Mm-hmm. Strange. So at that lunchtime, I got on to the poster, to my desk officer at RAF Air Manning, and said, I hear the F3, the pilot exchange for the Strike Eagle's been boarded. What's happened to the nav exchange? And he says, yeah, it probably is about time we looked at that. Right. Next phone call I make is to my boss. Say, right, boss, it's been on my preference sheet anyway each year about the Strike Eagle exchange. Can you put in a good word for me if that's doable? And now whether that made any difference or not, I don't know. But later on that year, we had a wing aircrew lunch at Lossiemouth, which is always a messy affair, and it had got particularly messy that year. And the following morning, I was called to see the station commander. And I was just on the squadron, and somebody says to me, Mal, CO wants to see you. Uh-oh. What do you mean, the squadron boss? No, station commander. Right, okay. Get in the car, drive across. His PA's in the outer office. I said, is this hats on or hats off? Oh, very much hats on. Oh, right. So, station commander calls me in, I march in, salute. What happened last night? So I'm afraid I honestly don't know. Are you telling me you have no recollection of what you got up to last night? Yes, sir. Well, it's not about that. Sit down, take your hat off. I thought, oh, you bastard. He says, I'm calling you in to let you know that you've been selected for the Strike Eagle exchange. Wow, fantastic, brilliant. He says, and I recommend you don't accept it. What? He says, yeah, well, you're very close to promotion now to squadron leader, and if you were picked for squadron leader when you're out there, it won't count as squadron leader time, it'll be dead time. So I'm getting promoted. Oh, there's no guarantee of that. Right, well, I think I'll take the Strike Eagle exchange then, if that's all the same to you. He says, well, you should think carefully about it. I already have for several years.
I'm off.
So off I went. And he was right, I did get promoted out there, and the Air Force did count it as dead time, because they're petty like that. But I do not regret a single minute of it.
Absolutely, yeah. Was there much competition for that role?
Yeah, lots of people wanted it. And like I say, I don't know if it was just timing because I spotted the market opportunity that put me at the front of the queue or what, but I was lucky enough to get selected for it. So we went out in March 2000. We went out to the States to start the exchange. It was based at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base in North Carolina, where there are 4 Strike Eagle squadrons. 2 are what they call the FTU, Formal Training Unit. That's the 333rd and 334th Fighter Squadrons, and then you've got the 335th and 336th, which are the 2 op squadrons at Seymour. And there was also a KC-135 tanker unit there as well, and a federal prison, and all sorts of other things. And the exchange at that time, both the pilot and the nav exchanges were on the formal training units, 1 on each squadron. So that was the expectation, that we would go out and fly on the FTU. So we got out there in the March, and the first thing they do, they fly you into, as a family, they fly you into Washington, DC, and you spend the weekend in DC just doing a bit of acclimatisation. On the Monday, there's briefings to attend at the embassy. Then they fly you up to wherever you're going, North Carolina for us, Raleigh-Durham Airport. and you go off and start getting your domestic life sorted out, because you've only got this 2-week window to sort everything out before you then start the course. Luckily, we were able to take over the house of the F3 pilot who was just leaving the exchange.
Okay.
Because they'd overlapped, the 2 F3 pilots had overlapped, so whilst one got productive, the other was still out there. So he was leaving about the same time as we arrived, so we were able to take their house over, which simplified things a little bit. But in the way of things, the military managed to complicate that 2-week period, so it's not just a settling in period. I had to go all the way to New Mexico to Holloman Air Force Base to do the centrifuge.
Okay.
I then had to go to Shore Air Force Base in South Carolina to do a refresher aeromedical training. And all in the middle of this, you're trying to get social security numbers, driving licenses, bank accounts, move your stuff in. I rang the shipping company actually to say, any idea where our stuff is? And the guy tapping a keyboards. Yeah, let me see. In fact, your belongings left Liverpool on the Atlantic conveyor on such and such a date, and they should be in Baltimore any time now. Hang on a minute, mate. The Atlantic conveyor sank in the Falklands War. Oh no, this is Atlantic conveyor 3. Okay, what happened to 2? Well, that sank as well. Right, are my things safe? So we eventually we get all the stuff and get onto the point where I'm allowed to start doing my flying training.